Hi, okay, this is a video on the tracking pages for the inner critic patterns, and also on how to learn more about IFS and get additional help if you feel that that would be helpful. So um, you're now in the stage where you've finished all 5 stages of self-therapy journey and probably the conclusion stage. And you are now doing the real-time practice that you set up in stage 5. And it's very helpful in doing that practice to actually have, we have tracking pages set up to help you track your practice, which helps you to do it. It helps you to learn from it. It helps you to improve it. So I really recommend that you use the practice pages. And you can access, every time you come into self-therapy journey, up in the right-hand corner, there'll be a link to your dashboard, which is where we already are. And then you can click here on practice pages and then scroll down to inner critic self-esteem, or whichever one of the other inner critic types you're working on. And here are the 3 practice pages. So let's look at the first one, the incident. So actually, let me show you this. So this is the incident tracking page. You can, if you've already done this, which I have for a couple of them, or at least I went through here. I don't know if I actually filled anything in, because I wasn't actually doing this. I was just setting it up. So you can review an existing tracking page. Here's one from Friday, these various dates. Or if you want to create a new tracking page, it automatically pops today's date in here. And of course, if you want, you can change that. And then you click here to continue. So I'll do that. And so here's an incident tracking page from this day and time. So you would fill in the particular incident that this refers to, such as I'm having a meeting with my boss, or I just got a notice from my school with my grades, or whatever it might be. So you type in the incident here. And then when your usual behavior, in this case, which is an inner critic attack, what triggers that? So you could write down what in that incident triggered an inner critic attack. And then, of course, the whole point of this is to do something different. So the statements you said to remind yourself that your usual behavior, in this case, it's really statements to remind your inner critic that it doesn't need to attack you. That's really what goes here. And then if it was afraid that if it didn't attack you, then something bad might happen, and there was some possibility of that, what would you do to, you already decided before, but now what did you actually do to assert yourself in that situation to handle the possibility of harm or rejection or something else? This is to reassure your inner critic that it doesn't need to attack you to keep you safe. We know this is crazy because inner critic attacks don't really keep you safe, but that's what your inner critic thinks. Statements you said to remind yourself to activate your self-esteem capacity. Before you created the statements, now this is after the incident happens, you're actually saying, what did I say to myself? And then what is the other things to evoke self-esteem? What is the body sensation, feeling, or state of consciousness, body posture, and so on, whatever you use to help evoke self-esteem in that moment. The statements your self-esteem inner champion said to you to help evoke self-esteem. And by the way, if you came up with anything new, you can add them to your self-esteem practice plan to use in the future. And then, how did it go? How did you do in activating self-esteem. And this is not related to how other people responded to you, just how did you do in terms of feeling good about yourself instead of feeling bad about yourself. How did other people respond? That may or may not be relevant. Any further personal notes you want to take about this, and then anything you want to do differently the next time. So you put all that in your report, and that'll be available to access to look at in the future. So that's what you do when it happens, and that could even be more than once a day, or it could be just once or twice a week. But then it's very helpful while you're doing the daily practice to kind of reflect at the end of the day, or maybe in the morning, on how the day went, to help you really stay on top of this and remind yourself that you're actually doing this practice. So here's the daily tracking page. So did the practice situation happen today? How many times did it, how many incidents, in case it happened more than once, how many of them? And if so, was I paying attention when the situations happened? Did my usual behavior, which is the inner critic attack, occur today? And if so, did I notice that it was happening? If I didn't, what kept me from noticing? And what can I do tomorrow to help myself be more aware? Did I do the practice of evoking self-esteem today? If not, what stopped me from doing the practice? And then here, if you did the practice but hadn't done the incident tracking pages, you can click here now to do them. So that's another way to do these. You can do them at the end of the day along with the daily tracking page. If I didn't do the practice, what can I do next time to help myself remember to do it better? And so on. Any further notes? So that's your daily tracking page. And then it's also really useful to reflect on a weekly basis. So here's the weekly tracking page. So each week, and each of these pages are different, you see. So here we say, how many times did I do the practice this week? Was this enough to be helpful? If I did the practice, how much of a difference did it make? What worked? What didn't work? Do I want to do it again next week? Is there anything I want to do differently next week? Any further notes I want to take? And so on. And so that's your weekly tracking page. And by the way, you can create a PDF of this report and then print it by clicking on the PDF icon here. Or you can print the report directly using the printer icon. I think the PDF icon, the printer icon is better because it leaves out the left and right columns. And so on. Okay, so let's close that. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about is IFS resources. Let me see. I think, let me go back to the weekly tracking page. I think that's how I actually got to this. Let's see, so I can review it. By the way, this is a good thing to show you. If I've already created a weekly tracking page, like the one I just did, I didn't fill anything in, but it's there. I can click here to return to it. That's not to create a new one, but to see one I already did. And then, here we go. So if you're reflecting on this and you're saying, you know what, this has been somewhat helpful, but I think I need additional help to really transform this pattern. You can contact me and we can talk about that. Or you can also go to this page, which basically is a discussion that many people can really resolve their inner critic issues using self-therapy journey, but many others find that for full resolution, they need additional help. And this could happen because of lots of different reasons, and I list some of them here, which I probably won't go into because it's right here for you to read. But if it turns out that you feel like you need additional help beyond self-therapy journey, do not feel bad about yourself. Many people feel this. If you feel like by doing self-therapy journey, you've gotten a sense of how IFS works. And if it feels like something that's really a fit for you, but you feel like self-therapy journey by itself is not enough, then there are lots of ways that you can learn IFS in more detail to really help you more fully resolve your inner critic issues. One place to start is to read my book, Self-Therapy, which is a manual for doing IFS for both therapists and lay people. Now, you may already have been reading Freedom from Your Inner Critic, and so, and that's a manual for doing IFS on inner critic parts. But in case you want even more, and in case you want to use IFS on types of parts other than inner critics, self-therapy goes into even more detail than Freedom from Your Inner Critic, and it's not oriented toward inner critic parts specifically. It tells you, it gives you the whole, a whole manual for doing IFS in a great amount of detail. In addition to that, in our store, we have recordings, a whole bunch of different recordings of demonstration IFS sessions, so you can actually get a feel for how IFS works by, maybe listening to one or two of those. We also offer phone courses in IFS. The basic course these days is being taught by, over the years, they've been taught by me or Bonnie or my colleague Everett. I think probably Everett's going to be teaching it this coming fall. So you can, and I don't think that's on the schedule yet, but as the fall gets closer, if you're interested in that, you can check that out. If that doesn't work, or you don't want to wait till the fall, we also have recorded courses on IFS. And you need to find a partner to pair with to do the homework, but the recorded course is another way to go. You can click here for that. And we also offer courses on specific issues, like, of course, the inner critic, but also eating issues and various other things. If you decide that you'd actually like to try working with an IFS therapist for maybe a session or two, or even a whole course of therapy, the Center for Self-Leadership is the organization created by Richard Schwartz, who is the creator of IFS, and its website has a listing of trained IFS therapists by location, so you can click here to find a qualified IFS therapist in your local area. Or if there isn't one, or if you're not happy with the therapists who are in your local area, another option is that many IFS therapists also work with people over the phone or by Skype, including me and Bonnie. And so, and also so you can click here to contact us to possibly work with one of us, or if you can't afford us, because we are relatively expensive, we can also refer you to some people, or of course you can use the Center for Self-Leadership site. So those are all possibilities for learning IFS. IFS, maybe it's not clear, maybe I should say this, IFS really lends itself to being something, being self-therapy, something you can do on your own, or even better, with a partner. The people who take my IFS classes or my inner critic class where I teach IFS actually pair up with people for homework and practice, with one person being the person who's doing the IFS session and the other person being the witness / facilitator. And most people find that partnering situation is what is most helpful in really learning to do IFS and even practicing it over the long term. I've had many people who've taken my IFS courses who find somebody in the course that they click with, and they set up a weekly partnership that often goes on for years, and they work with each other doing IFS together. So that's something that I highly encourage you to do if you're interested. Okay, and that's the end of this video.